evening. Bit of a smoky sunset, very red colors to the sky tonight, and I'll show you a little bit what's going on. But you can see, looking out here to the southwest, looks pretty gray out in that direction. Well, the big news that we got going on is, of course, the departure of that winter storm, that nor'easter. And this is a look at the snowfall amounts. Now, I did get on the news search and start looking around for snowfall. I couldn't find really any maximums, but this is the official federal observed snowfall totals, and we've seen 15 inches there at Albany. Surprisingly higher amounts out in upstate New York here around Rochester and Syracuse, 21 to 22 inches. CEF, I think that's Westover Air Force Base. Not 100% sure, but 16 inches right there, and 20 up here at Burlington, Vermont. And also 18 out here, I guess that's around Harrisburg. Very scattered reports of snowfall. Really, it depends, I guess, on individual station policy, who's reporting snowfall and who isn't. You can see Portland here, nothing coming out of there, so I don't know. It seems like the snowfall observation program kind of haphazard right now. But in any case, we do get a breakout at the top right. Bradley at Windsor Locks down to 13 inches, so it looks like there has been some erosion of those snowfall totals. Only 1 inch there at Washington, down from 7 to 5 at Newark, down to 4 at JFK, and 7 at LaGuardia. So looks like things are starting to gradually improve here today. Now for the high temperatures, well, we don't get those anymore because of daylight savings. It's now 0013 and 0113, and the max temperatures don't come out for another 10 or 20 minutes. So we're going to have to switch over to minimums. And here's what we got for the minimums across the country today. Looks like lots of 40s and 50s for Texas. We go up to the northeast U.S., and we pick up lots of teens in this area here. There's the 20 line off to the south, and up to the north, there's the 10-degree line, so pretty much teens all through this area right here. Okay, and as you can see here in Texas, wow, we're pretty warm here. 70s out around Abilene, and 73 at San Angelo, and 70 at San Antonio, so we're not really getting any of this cold weather out in this part of the country. Let's see what's going on with that smoke, though. And one thing I did, I jumped into the METARs here to kind of figure out what was going on. I looked at some stations around this area. 10 miles, no problems there. I looked at Tyler. No problems there really either. 10 miles. So what I did is I fired up McIdas. And here's the McIdas loop for today. Okay, so doesn't look like anything unusual here. Just a little bit of stratocumulus and stratus, a little bit of this herringbone transverse wave type stuff going on. But let's run this loop here, and you can see if you can pick out what's going on here. Wow, so you see this right here. This is what we were seeing outside on that opening clip. So this is a little area of smoke from a forest fire. And this is one of the excellent ways we can use McIdas, and let me show you exactly how. So I'm going to freeze frame it right on this area here. See that spot right there? And down at the bottom you can see this lat long readout. And we can back up and find pretty much where the source of that smoke is. And I took that lat long and I plugged that into Google Earth. And I found this is where the smoke was coming from, about 25 miles west of Lufkin, Texas. So mystery solved there. just a forest fire, and even the news has not really picked up on this. But that just goes to show you some of the value you can get from some of these tools like Megitis and GR Level 2. You can jump right in and find out exactly what's going on and where, and look at things further. So that's what we were seeing outside, some of that smoke. Okay, around the rest of the country, let's see here, 500 millibar chart. And before I get too much further into this, let me take a look at the chat window and make sure we don't have any problems. Got Sue M checking in here, and Andrew. Mark is here, and Fun with Tech, and Ron Chalfont. Ryan Toomies and Adam Davis is here. Ryan says, cold, cold, cold. Ray Woody is here. Jason Boggs, looking ahead on the GFS for the 22nd, 23rd. That's when we're looking at some severe weather possibly affecting Texas with that southern stream starting to become active. So yeah, we're going to be looking for a chance of severe weather there. Adam Davis landed that internship. Excellent. Ahmed is here, and let's see here. Mark, CEF, Westover Air Force Base. Yep. Excellent. Thanks. Ryan says 35-degree temperature swing coming there in South Florida. Eddie W. checking in, and Victor Cabo. Hello to Victor. And Sarah Wood is here. All right. Looks like the whole gang is checked in, and you can see we've got that continued northwesterly flow across the U.S., except it's a little bit more meridional, similar to what we had last night. So there's the major shortwave ridge, the major trough, kind of through here, and then I guess the long wave trough itself probably parked right across the U.S., flattened out a little bit by this ridge right here. Now keep in mind this is the 12Z map. Since we start the webcast at 0100Z, that means we're going to have some problems getting the 0Z data. That's so close to the radiosonde observation time. But SPC to the rescue. Very good source of upper air data. And we're talking about this experimental upper air surface maps page, and this is a good way of getting some very new, hot off the wire, hot off the presses data. And we're still not quite there even with SPC, so still showing 15Z or March 15th data. So this is probably one example of where I would go to digital atmosphere to plot the maps. So let me do that real quick. I'll set up a chart for the US. So let me generate that real quick. I'll back down this map size a bit. And we're set. So let's generate that. And then I'll go to data and then retrieve data and make sure I include the upper air data. So radiosonde data right there. I'll select the 0Z data. And there we go. We can watch the upper air data coming in. And maybe I should show you a little bit of that. Maybe some of you are not too familiar with what that upper air data looks like. So once we get done processing that, we'll take a quick look at that. And I think we're good to go. So let's switch over to 500 millibars. And there we go. So now we can see that the upper air trough has moved just about off the northeast coast there. Let me plot the upper air heights. I'll select the balanced height field and we'll get a look at this. And this is Digital Atmosphere. This is a program that I've written over the past 20 years for displaying weather data. So right now it's generating some of the analysis fields, and there we go. A little bit of bad data off the coast, but you can see the very strong northwesterly flow. And in fact, I think we've even gotten a little bit more amplification of this meridional pattern here. Polar front jet, we can see that coming basically from about Nebraska down through Georgia. Right like that, all the way down to off the Carolinas coast. And it's a pretty good bet that the polar front jet is continuing on up to the Canadian Maritimes like this. So the main low is over New England, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. So this is actually an occlusion. This is the barotropic low here. The occlusion starting to become more barotropic, actually. And that's going to shift northward and out of the picture, and this is going to become the new active development zone right there. So this is what's coming for the rest of the U.S., this ridge coming down the backside. And let's check out, let's check out the upper air data. I was going to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go to View Raw Data. I'm going to scroll down and we'll see what that looks like. So you see that coded data right there. This is all upper air data. And I'll show you a very quick example what that looks like. So let me copy this into a notepad program so we can show you what. I'll make this look a little bit larger for you all. Okay, maybe that's a little bit easier to read. I'm going to go to 72357. And I'm guessing that that's Norman. I'm not 100% sure. I've forgotten some of these upper air codes. But this is an example of the mandatory level data here. Yeah, this is Norman right there. So OUN. Now say I want to look at the 500 millibar data. Well, I just look through the blocks here. This is 850. This is 700, and there's 500. And this is showing that the height at 500 millibars is 577 decameters. It's showing that the temperature is minus 12.9, dew point depression 17, and winds out of 310 at 41 knots. So now you know how to read a bit of upper air data. So pretty simple. Well, not so simple, but anyway, you kind of get the hang of how this works here. This is how we build our soundings with that sort of data right there. Okay, so back to the charts. There goes our system out from the northeast U.S. You can see it rotating right there over New Hampshire, western Maine, and the main baroclinic zone out here over the Canadian Maritimes. And back in behind it, you can see some of the subsidence coming in on the backside, and right over here, a little bit of this wraparound here, a little bit of showery snow showers coming in from Quebec. Now it is time to look at the thermal patterns across the North American continent. So this pretty well details where the strongest baroclinicity is. There's the cold front, and here's the warm front, extending almost to St. John's, Newfoundland right here. And this is that upper level low right there. It's located over Maine, and you can see how well detached that is from the main area of baroclinicity. Probably about 400 miles there. So this is heading on northward to the graveyard up in Baffin Bay and near Baffin Island. Here's the cold air advection coming back in behind the main baroclinic system, heading southeast off the coast, and there's probably some good cold air advection stratus offshore through here. High pressure moving into the Midwest, and here in Texas we're starting to get into the warm air advection pattern. So that's getting started up, and the next front already sneaking onshore. There it is right there. And the warm front probably maybe something like that right there. And maybe a bit of an inclusion coming up to the British Columbia Islands right there. So this is our next system coming in, but that's going to be heading more east-northeast here. So we're going to have a few days here of fair weather in Texas, probably through much of the weekend here. And this is another way we can look at the baroclinicity of the atmosphere. This is 850 millibar temperature, and I believe relative humidity. I'm checking the legend here because this is not a product we regularly use. Let's see, temperature, 850 millibar height. Yeah, that's relative humidity. That green blob-like, jello-like stuff right there. This here, yeah, that's the relative humidity right there. And the red, those are the isotherms. So that's basically temperature. So let's check it out here and see how that correlates to thickness. Very strong 850 millibar temperature gradient right there. And remember, we placed the front on the warm side of that gradient. And I don't know if you can see the U.S. underneath all that, but there it is. There's the U.S. right there. So just off the coast here, there's the old front dissipating, and you can see a very close correlation between that and the thickness chart depiction we had earlier. And we can also see the new warm front coming up through the Dakotas right here. And the new cold front coming onshore near Oregon and Washington right there. So things are matching up pretty well, and this is one good example of how we can use all the charts to get consistency between all the products. All right, let's take a look at the vorticity. And this will kind of give us an idea what kind of dynamics we have affecting the North American continent. And there we go. There's the upper level low over Maine. There's the polar front jet, pretty much where we identified it there in digital atmosphere, working its way up to the Canadian Maritimes. And our front out in this area right here. So this is the new system coming onshore right here in Washington, and let's see what happens to that system. Moves pretty quickly across the Canadian Rockies overnight. And by tomorrow, when we do the webcast, that's going to be affecting the Saskatoon, Winnipeg area right there. That'll move pretty quickly eastward through Ontario, developing a little bit over the Great Lakes. So maybe some snow showers coming up for Indiana, looks like. Yep, right around here, increasing positive vorticity. That's a good sign of some upward vertical motion developing here. And we're talking about Friday night. That's digging pretty good there, working into the central Atlantic area, the same area that was hit yesterday. So this is going to be on Saturday. Then we get the ridging building, and behind that, here comes the next system. And this will be the last punch of strong dynamics. And this will head more towards Ontario and Quebec. Maybe a bit of an effect in New York and New England. And now we're starting to look into the California area. And this is probably where Ron is getting a bit concerned there for March 21st and March 22nd. New system coming on shore here. And then we get some dynamics working into Arizona and New Mexico on the 22nd and 23rd. And this is when we're looking at a possibility of severe weather for Texas. That's still kind of a ways off. And it looks like a 1-2 punch. There goes that right there, moving through the southeast U.S., and then we get another shot here around the 27th and 28th. Okay, so we'll take one last look at the chat, and then we'll put it all together on the pivotal weather charts. Let me get this all configured and aligned. I guess we'll watch that outgoing system right there. And there we go. That's what's happening right now. Okay, just some discussion here and there in chat. Just talking about the snow bands and snow totals there in Indiana. All right, and we'll head on and look at this upper system. Actually, this is a vertically stacked system working its way eastward. And one little tidbit here, this vertical stack that you see here, you remember we were looking at the upper air data. It was showing a upper low over Maine. We're also showing that surface low in the same area. And when we have vertical stacking like that, that's a good sign that we have a barotropic system with not much temperature advection, pretty well wrapped up and often associated with an occluded system. Your baroclinic systems, on the other hand, those will have a tilted stack. In other words, if you have the surface system over New York, you're going to find the 850 millibar low here, the 700 millibar low over Michigan, and maybe a 500 millibar trough opening up into that over Minnesota. So that's another tool you can look at. There is tilt with height. So there goes our old friend heading on, well, I don't know if you want to call it a friend there, though, but definitely a mess heading out into the Canadian Maritimes. Cold air advection heading on out, and this high-pressure area will shut it down as it moves towards the East Coast. So let's get things moving here on the charts. For tomorrow's webcast, we're going to be looking at this. The main thickness gradient area up here. This is going to be where we have our next front setting up. Probably a warm front looking something like that. Warm air advection continuing in Texas. So pretty mild in this area. And remember, this system up in Manitoba will be heading down towards Indiana here over the weekend. And there it goes. So by Friday night, looks like GFS going for a little bit of dry slot affecting that area. So not going for much in the way of snowfall totals here. Just kind of a quick blow through on late on Friday, and then things look pretty quiet there actually. And then for Saturday, when we do the webcast then, there's the front heading offshore and out of the picture, and one more front coming in from Alberta. Sunday's webcast. There's that next front right there coming through the Dakotas into Nebraska. And we know that that is moving a little bit further north into the Great Lakes, but GFS going for a little bit more precip, but more on the liquid side here for Monday the 20th. And that'll sag into the Midwest right here and into Texas. bring the temperatures down in the Dallas and Memphis and Little Rock area, and now we're starting to look out west at our next system coming into California. So there we go. Rain starting to set up there. Snow up in the higher elevations of the Sierra Nevadas. And now you can see thickness is showing that our front has crossed the Rockies pretty quickly on the 22nd. So we're looking for that front kind of in this area right here. And there it is. Things blow up in West Texas. That's going to be the frontal setup right there. Probably a squall line maybe getting started up in West Texas late on Thursday evening. And then I'll move quickly eastward during the day. Very deep system here, going for a 985 millibar low there over the Dodge City area on Thursday evening. And at this point, it looks like this system is starting to become barotropic. So maybe we're starting to get some wraparound like this. Looks like the main area of baroclinicity probably down to the south along the Gulf Coast. Can't really pick out the structure of the system too well, and this makes me wonder if the model has a good handle on that. It's a very deep system, but I'm not really seeing the frontal support here. Although we are seeing it starting to fill here. So we see early on there's the front. And let's see. At this point, I would place the front kind of like that. Yeah, I guess we do have some support for the front. This is definitely barotropic back here. There's the occluded system kind of wrapping back into that. And then this is where things kind of unravel. So I'm not really too sure what we're looking at for here. It's possible that the squall line activity, maybe this just kind of disrupted the air mass setup in this area here. But anyway, this is about 220, 240 hours out, so there's still a ways to see how the models resolve that. So we'll check that out tomorrow. Here's punch number 2 coming in on the Pacific Coast. So front kind of looking like that right there. That also quickly crosses the Rockies, probably another squall line forming. And then that's out of the picture by March 30th, and then we get to the end. Okay, so that is the story for what's happening over the next 2 weeks. So hopefully that fills you in on all the details there. So yeah, Ron says looking for rain and maybe some snow on the 23rd. And Adam Davis, says Friday, Saturday is his drive back to Pennsylvania. Hopefully his drive goes well. So good luck there, Adam, at Wish TV. And keep us posted. It sounds like a lot of fun there. All right. We will see you tomorrow. Have a good evening, guys.